Join us for 3 epic October days in Edinburgh. We take on the Royal Mile, a witch tour, the Witchery, St. Giles Cathedral, the castle. We come face to face with Frankenstein's monster, get creeped out in the vaults, and visit the most haunted pub and cemetery in Scotland, plus loads more. Let's do this. Our flight for Edinburgh was at 6 a.m, so we could make the day of it when we arrived. We leave in good time. Both Dublin and Edinburgh Airport began life as Royal Air Force aerodromes, turnhouses for the military in the First World War. Dublin Airport opened to the public on the 19th of January 1940, offering just 2 flights a week to Liverpool only. The first runway was built in Edinburgh Airport just after the Second World War. The first commercial services launched in 1947. We had a beautiful sunrise flight, lovely time of year for travelling in the crisp October air. We boarded a Bright Bus Express just outside the door of Edinburgh Airport. 2 return tickets into the city and back to the airport cost us around £15, and the ticket was open for 3 days. Great value. After about 20 minutes we arrived at Princes Street, the main artery of Edinburgh's new town. We chilled out for a bit in the gardens to catch the autumn morning sun. Princes Street is part of the new town designed by James Craig in 1767, with people moving in the 1770s, filled with Georgian and Victorian architecture, lush gardens and panoramic views of the castle. The street is filled with shops, boutiques and historic Gothic landmarks such as the Scott Monument and the National Gallery of Scotland. We make our way to Destiny Apartments, Market Street, opposite the Edinburgh Dungeon. A really central place to stay with a key code entry system, very handy for no checking in or out. The apartment was spacious and could facilitate self-catering. The bed was comfy and clean, bathroom was spotless, free Wi-Fi and Netflix as well as cable TV. Also a beautiful view of the city. We choose an early morning stroll before the city fully wakes up. We head around the corner to Coburn Street. That will bring us up to the Royal Mile. This curved street is filled with cafes and niche shops. The street opened in 1846 and sliced through the previous medieval pattern of closes in order to give a more gentle and wider route to the Royal Mile from Waverley Station, before only accessible by alleyways. The term Royal Mile was first used in 1901. The Royal Mile runs between Edinburgh Castle and the Palace of Holyrood House. The Royal Mile is full of tourist-focused shops, cafes and bars. Our advice is to shop around before purchasing anything, as things become a little less expensive the further from the Royal Mile you go. In an old city like Edinburgh, there is a story in every alley, nook and cranny. On the 24th of November 1861, a 7-storey building collapsed here at Paisley Close, killing 35 people. As the clean-up mission began, reports were made of the rescue of a little boy, Joseph McIver, who was heard shouting, "Heave away, chaps, I'm not dead yet!" from beneath the debris. He is now immortalised above the entrance of the close. The light in a grim tale caused a public scandal highlighting the need for structural safety of tenement buildings in Old Town. Tales like this only encourage our obsession with exploring off the main path wherever we go. We make our way to St. Giles Cathedral, a wonderfully Gothic cathedral filled with detailed stained glass and amazing carvings and statues from many periods in time. St. Giles is associated with many events and figures in Scottish history. King David I founded St. Giles Cathedral in 1124. Years later, enter John Knox, the church's minister after the Scottish Reformation. He played a role in drafting the Scottish Witchcraft Act in 1563. Few acts passed by any parliament have had such deadly consequences. It was a time of great change in Scotland. Knox held the belief that witchcraft was a crime and it deserved the death penalty. Knox was a spark that literally burned many innocent people, and his legacy smouldered for 200 years. He incited hatred and mistrust in people that used natural remedies to heal their neighbour in a time of poverty, disease and overpopulation. Prime targets for accusations of witchcraft were the mentally ill and people with physical impairments. The burning years had begun, and Scotland wasn't alone as a country in paranoia that fueled the witch trials. The flame spread through Europe and into colonial America, typically connected to the Salem witch trials 100 years later, 1692 to 1693. John Knox is buried underneath a parking space 23 outside the cathedral. A commemorative stone marks his grave, but you can still park over him. We broke for lunch. After lunch, we exit the rear of the castle arms onto the terrace overlooking Victoria Street, where Sandy finds a lucky penny. Then we are back onto the Royal Mile and we find our way to Lady Stairs Close. The Writers' Museum is a free museum that celebrates the lives of three giants of Scottish literature: Robert Burns, Sir Walter Scott and Robert Louis Stevenson. Home to portraits, rare books and personal objects including Burns' writing desk. There is also a plaster cast of Robert Burns' skull. It's a beautiful building and well worth a visit. Lady Stairs Close leads to Market Street, which brings us back to Prince's Gardens for an afternoon stroll. Created in 1820 by draining Edinburgh's largest loch, the Norloch, the gardens separate the old town and the new town. Once a marshland that had been used as a natural medieval defence along with the castle, it is believed the loch was where witch ducking would take place. This was a way of discovering if a suspect was guilty of witchcraft. The gardens are over 37 acres and are a great place to soak some iconic views of the castle. You just can't beat the autumnal colours. We were blessed with the weather. The gardens are full of sculptures and statues, including Wojciech, the orphan soldier bear, adopted by the Polish army in 1943. By the time he was fully grown, he had learned to salute and carry supplies and enjoyed drinking beer and wrestling his fellow soldiers. More iconic views can be captured at the Ross Fountain, gifted by local gunsmith Daniel Ross in 1872 and restored in 2018. We pre-booked a walking tour using the Get Your Guide app. The tour took a little over an hour and cost £38 for two. Our witchy guide Juniper was very knowledgeable and charismatic, giving good insight into the history of the city. We also visited our first vault. It was just a short visit to one vault room that doubles as a bar at night time. On the whole, an interesting tour. We have another more detailed vault excursion that you'll see later in this vlog. The tour brings us up to 3 p.m. and the Royal Mile is bustling with activity. The air is filled with live music from the street performers. Please note, these people make their living adding to the atmosphere around the city. And I'm sure you'll agree it's appropriate to offer some token of appreciation if you happen to take a photo or have a performer in your content. We chatted to many of them. It's easy to miss the Witch's Well, tucked away on the right hand side of the street facing the castle. It is a cast iron fountain and plaque that honours more than 4,000 Scottish people who were burned at the stake in the 15th to 18th centuries. During the 16th century, more women were murdered at this site than anywhere else in Scotland. Each victim was denied a proper trial. Erected in 1894, containing lots of jewel symbolism, the right side of the trough depicts a pair of healing hands, the left panel depicts the evil eye of protection. The main plaque contains images of a foxglove plant, both healing and poisonous depending on dosage, the head of Asclepius, the god of medicine, and his daughter Hygeia, the goddess of health, entwined with the serpent of knowledge. Another interpretation of the images is the older figure is the crone and the younger is the maiden, popular Wiccan female symbols. Metres away from the fountain, Edinburgh Castle stands on Castle Rock, which has been occupied by humans since the Iron Age. We didn't prioritise the tour for this journey. We visited lots of castles in Ireland of the same period, and Edinburgh had so much we wanted to explore. The area around the castle is abundant with great views of the city. Edinburgh Castle is Scotland's most popular paid tourist attraction. Over 70% of the city's tourists pass through the castle. Booking the tours ahead of your visit is highly advised. You'll see many views of the castle from around the city in this vlog. We tackle more steps and stairs as we head back to the apartment for a little rest before we head out later in the evening. As night falls, we go back to the Scott Monument as it towers over Prince's Gardens, a fitting tribute to one of Scotland's literary giants, Sir Walter Scott, designed by George Michael Kemp and completed in 1846 from money raised by public donations. Housed in what was formerly a 19th century church, the Frankenstein Pub is very cool, with its leaded windows and imposing Gothic arched doorways and ceilings. The ambience here is fantastic and spooky, with mad scientist features throughout. If you're a horror fan looking for a quirky atmosphere and reasonably priced drinks, the Frankenstein Pub is a must. We can recommend the barbecue chicken pizza and try your best to get a good seat. The show only lasts for a few minutes, but fortunately it takes place about once an hour, so you're sure to get a chance to see it. We have a great fondness for classic horror movies and we're like two kids waiting for it to kick off. We sped up this video so the experience is still worth the visit. The soundtrack and lighting very cool. Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus, is an 1818 novel written by Mary Shelley. It takes the story of Victor Frankenstein, a young scientist who creates life from dead human remains in an unorthodox scientific experiment, creating a moral and horrific dilemma. Frankenstein the movie hit the big screen in 1931 under the genre crossovers American Gothic science fiction horror film directed by James Whale, starring Boris Karloff. Still one of the iconic Frankies. After pints and a pizza with Frankie, we call it a day. We've been on our feet for almost 24 hours since we set out for our flight. As you have seen, Edinburgh is full of hills and lots of steps. We clocked up over 30,000 steps each, equating to about 20 kilometres on foot. Stay with us for day 2 fun. We start the day with a bagel from Coffee and More, just around the corner from the apartment. No big plan for this morning as we have a big afternoon and evening ahead. We are off to the Witchery for afternoon lunch, taking an evening tour at Greyfriars Cemetery and Niddry Street Falls, and we will also visit the most haunted pub in the UK, the Banshee Labyrinth. So stick around. We spend the morning snooping around some of the local shops. Museum Context claims it is a unique celebration of the fact that Edinburgh is the birthplace of Harry Potter, filled with Harry Potter merchandise, a must visit for any Potterheads. We return to the Royal Mile and happen upon Tronkirk Maker's Market. Originally a parish church built in the 17th century and closed as a church in 1952. Having stood empty for over 50 years, it was used as a tourist information centre for several years in the mid-2000s, and more recently a modern market bringing together 20 Scottish artists and designers from all over Scotland. We chatted to a few artists and picked up a few gifts here. People were really pleasant. We returned to the apartment for a rest and a shower and then made our way to the Witchery for afternoon lunch. Off to the Witchery we go. The Witchery is a restaurant at the top of the Royal Mile, near the castle. The restaurant was opened in 1979 and employs 70 people. As mentioned earlier, Witches is halfway between the Witchery and the castle where many perished during the burning years.
Not to be left off the bandwagon, the Witchery building is said to be haunted by the spirit of a person that was convicted of witchcraft and perished just a few meters up the street.
Oh, Jesus!
We arrive about 5 minutes before mealtime. The alleyway is called Boswell's Court and was built in 1595, named after John Boswell, an eccentric physician who lived there. It is a very busy place. Full disclosure on our lack of continuity. As you might notice, Sandy's outfit changes a few times on the way in. We tried 5 or 6 times over 3 days to get a shot of us walking in here, but it was always packed with people. We booked a month in advance as this is a major treat for our anniversary. We chose the light lunch option, averaging around £39 each for 2 courses. We made the reservation in the secret garden. We regretted not booking the main dining room. Atmosphere was only okay. Staff were a bit distant but polite. Everything you are offered, such as water and bread rolls, will appear on your bill. We kept the video and pics to a minimum with respect to other guests. I was advised to get chips with my beef, evident on arrival as the main portion was as big as the palm of my hand, and to my untrained palate I failed to note much going on flavour-wise. Sandy had the fish pie, which was also tiny and bland. We purchased 2 mocktails and it all cost around £130. So, being honest, we kind of fell for the romance and the hype of the place. If you need that Instagram pic, feel free to make up your own mind. We hit the road for some extreme walking and tourism. We wandered around the city for most of the afternoon, falling deeper and deeper in love with its slopes, steps and all the sights to see. Sorry but not sorry, Witchery. After a few hours we had to refuel for the spooky night ahead. Zebra Coffee Company lured us in with its delectable stuffed cookies. One to share, half the guilt. Well worth a try. As our Greyfriars Cemetery tour is at night time, we decide to check it out during the day. You will pass the Elephant House Cafe. The building remains but the business moved. They claimed J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter on the premises. Greyfriars is known for its church, graveyard and the heartwarming story of Greyfriars Bobby, a loyal Skye Terrier that kept a 14-year vigil over his master's grave. Bobby was buried near his master and is commemorated with a flower garden and a bronze statue on the street leading into the cemetery. Good luck and long life is supposed to follow by rubbing his nose. Another popular reason for many to visit is that several of the Harry Potter characters are named after real people buried in the graveyard. Poor Tom Riddle. Little did he know a couple of 100 years ago that his name would be lifted from his headstone and given to one of the most evil characters in modern literature. The original edge of Edinburgh, the Flodden Wall, goes straight through the cemetery. Night rolls its blanket over the city and we return for a spooky walking tour.
We're in a haunted graveyard.
It featured a lot of gruesome stories, including the well-known tales of grave robbers Burke and Hare, responsible for 16 murders over a period of 10 months in 1828, using barrels to roll the corpses through the alleys to the Royal College of Surgeons of Edinburgh. Another Knox, this time Robert Knox, paid the pair for every cadaver and used them for dissection at his anatomy lectures. We walked to the Nidri Street Vaults, part of a series of damp chambers formed in the 19 arches of the South Bridge. Built in the late 1780s as storerooms and workshops, they soon slipped into a dark subterranean slum where illegal trade was rife. The homeless, sick and plague-ridden were driven here. One unit, as big as your living room, could contain up to 30 dwellers, fighting for air and sleeping in filth. Lots of bad things happened here. I took these 2 pictures split seconds apart. You can see a line in the second pic. The atmosphere shifts and I believe that misery and hardship manifests in other ways in these dark places. In this heavy atmosphere and dim light, your eyes play tricks on you and your other senses heighten. People report a tall shadow man in parts. Some have been scratched and the faint chatter of children can be heard in other vaults. You will see the temple of the White Witch Coven of the Blue Dragon and hear the tale of why they left the vault after trying to clear the bad energy for years. Will you dare to step inside the notorious circle? Sandy did with 2 other ladies,
all feeling very strange responses. Sandy is a spirit-conscious person and felt electricity and nausea with dizziness while in there. There are many tour options. As long as there is a fascination with the past, there will be tours like this. We will definitely visit a different part in the future. We used Get Your Guide again, and this was with Old Reekie Tours. It cost €57.50. We walk a few metres up the street to our next destination, Scotland's most haunted pub, the Banshee Labyrinth. Sorry. The Banshee Labyrinth had many reports of spooky experience by locals and tourists over the years. This pub is full of spirits, and not just the alcoholic kind, right? After the discovery of the vault system in the 80s, the Banshee Labyrinth premises extended vastly, utilising vault rooms to build its unique layout, a live venue as well as a cinema. I decided to take a trip around the place. I reached a very dark spot in the hall and I did get freaked out. And it was me. And then I stumbled into the cinema room and was embarrassed. If you didn't want to pay for a tour, just grab a cocktail here. The staff are really nice. The pub got its name from workmen hearing a banshee scream here and receiving a message of a family member passing. A male entity known as the Watcher frequents. Sightings of a 6-year-old girl called Molly who disappeared in 1841. During restoration, a child's shoe with her name inscribed fell out of a bricked up chimney. There's also a spooky old jock. His spirit has fueled reports of frisky paranormal activity in the ladies' toilets. We clocked up an appropriately spooky 13k with today's adventures and returned to our cosy apartment an hour before the clock strikes Halloween. We enjoy the city view one more time as we look forward to some more gallivanting tomorrow, our last day, so stay tuned. Halloween morning, I opened the window and I discovered there's a brass band playing us out of Edinburgh. What a great way to wake up. We hit the road early and register with Bounce Luggage Storage, pop our bags into a facility about 5 minutes away, costing about £13. As we have until 4 p.m. in the city, well worth it for a luggage-free wander around. There's always a good time to visit a national museum, founded in 1780 in the spirit of enlightenment, storing objects relating to the archaeology of Scotland. Its collection then passed into public ownership in 1851. Never underestimate them for filling the mind and passing the hours in comfort. The National Museum of Scotland is exceptional. The museum is free to the public and is a fine place to donate some leftover sterling cash. It provides a great array of interactive information and history, filled with thousands of amazing objects across multiple galleries, from our human beginnings through the natural world, highlighting the history of Scotland and the rest of the world, from the bones of the earth to the planets and the stars, and the angels of art, design, industry, fashion and technology. This place has got you covered. The rooftop terrace is well worth checking out also, giving great views of Greyfriars Cemetery, which is close by. Then throw your gaze across the city's Gothic steeples to the castle and beyond. We spend the rest of the morning casually strolling the Grassmarket area. The Knight's Vault sells handmade and antique swords, armour, medieval weapons and helmets. The staff are really obliging, helping you find your family coat of arms and trace your family history. They also have a nice selection of Lord of the Rings items. We wander into W. Armstrong & Son. It is a renowned vintage clothing emporium. It was established in 1840 by William Armstrong, selling traditional men's attire, and has evolved into an emporium of high quality vintage clothing and accessories. There are 4 of these shops around the city. We embark on our last lunch in Edinburgh for this visit. We choose Maker's Gourmet Mash Bar. We've heard so much about this place. The walk-in system works by giving your phone number and the restaurant texts you when your table is ready. Not a bad system. We waited about 25 minutes for our text. This is a comfortable, casual dining experience with award-winning food, tasty, filling and comforting. There is a warm atmosphere and the staff are very welcoming too. Reasonably priced, 2 courses, 2 drinks and 1 dessert cost around £60. It is at this stage in our trip that we wish time would simply slow down or go in reverse, as we only have a couple of hours before we return home to Ireland. So we go to the streets and the gardens once more to soak up as much of the city's charm as we can. For this October/Halloween trip, we focused the activities on our interests in folklore, horror and history. As I mentioned before, we couldn't have had better weather, but be prepared for it to change. Again, there's lots of steep steps and hills, so good footwear, a warm layer and a raincoat is advisable. After a lap of the gardens, we hop onto a bright bus with our return tickets. It takes us back to Edinburgh Airport in about 25 minutes. And it being Halloween, we had a special guest or two to join us for the trip. We had a happy Halloween night flight back home and straight to bed with dreams filled with the distant call of the pipes of Edinburgh. We will definitely return to Edinburgh in spring as we are smitten with the city, so stay tuned for that video. It's a beautiful historic place with lots to do. Plan ahead with Google Maps for a fun-filled visit. We hope you enjoyed our adventure. Feel free to like and subscribe, and if you would like to help us make more content like this, you can buy us a coffee or some haggis through our donation link. Hopefully we'll see you somewhere along the road. Thanks for watching.